Fortunately, there is a better way to learn, a way that harnesses your brain's innate abilities to make learning both easy and fun, a method that makes new information as memorable as your most cherished memories. That allows you to accumulate knowledge faster than you ever thought possible. This method is based on proven neuroscientific principles and has been developed and refined for over 2,500 years. Once you know it, you'll be able to learn anything you desire, from industry trends to foreign languages, in a fraction of the time. In this book, you're going to learn the techniques that comprise this method in an easy, entertaining, and step-by-step way. 9 good lessons from the book, The Only Skill That Matters. Number 1. The illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. Alvin Toffler, author of Future Shock. In modern life, there are a lot of skills that are important. As a 21st century human, you need to know how to navigate social relationships, get along with technology, stay informed about politics, obey laws, balance your finances, make smart career decisions, choose a healthy diet, and about a million other little skills that help you thrive in today's world. Of course, none of these skills actually matter if you aren't able to learn them effectively. Once you've developed that basic ability to learn, the next most important skill, of course, is language. After all, how are you supposed to learn things higher up the hierarchy if you can't understand the way they're communicated? This is why we each spend a year or more of our early lives learning to speak and communicate. Number 2. We're all familiar with the age-old questions asked by generation after generation of bored students. Why do I need to learn this? When am I ever going to use blank? You've probably asked it, and you've almost certainly heard it. Have you ever noticed, though, that it's almost never young children who ask these questions? As Knowles understood, something changes in the way that we learn as we mature. By the time our brains reach adulthood, we become much more discerning. We are no longer willing or able to sit down and memorize information because teacher says so. Suddenly, as we reach puberty, we want to know why? Why is this information relevant to our lives? And no, some lofty philosophical answer is not enough. Have you ever tried to tell a teenager to do their algebra homework because it will make them a more well-rounded person? The reply is generally some variant of no thanks. Instead, as our brains mature, the why that we seek is more practical, more functional. We not only want to know why this information is valuable, we want to know how we're actually going to use it and whether or not it will help us reach our goals. Number 3. Adult learners want to know how they're going to apply the information that they're expected to learn. Unfortunately, even that is not enough for our highly discerning brains. In fact, in addition to knowing how we're going to use that information, we want to know that it's going to happen soon. Again, try telling a flippant teenager that learning history will be useful when they have children of their own. Good luck. Most adult brains don't want to learn something unless they have a pressing and immediate need to. Number 4. Oftentimes, when we sit down to learn, we are full of excitement, passion, and enthusiasm. We are eager to dive in, to sink our teeth into this new subject, and give it our best shot. But the truth is that while it's great to have enthusiasm for learning, enthusiasm without planning can do more harm than good. Before you begin to study a new subject, there are a handful of questions that you must ask yourself. These questions will do more than help you determine the most efficient way to learn something, though. Number 5. If you want to improve your memory tenfold, create novel visualizations called markers for everything you wish to remember. Yes, you read that right. The crux of the big secret behind tripling your memory boils down to imagining pictures in your head. Anticlimactic, I know, but that really is half the battle, or more. At first, this might be difficult. Coming up with these markers is a creative endeavor, and many of us haven't trained our creativity muscles for years. Fortunately, we know from the research that creativity is not something you have or you don't. It's something you train, and something you can relearn very quickly. By simply practicing visualization over time, you will come up with more and more creative visualizations, and it'll become both faster and easier to do so. So, what kinds of these markers should you come up with? Well, as you can imagine, not all visualizations are created equal. Number 6. Though you may have never heard of it, the truth is, SQ3R is actually used and taught in many US schools and universities. That's probably why it was taught to me by 2 separate people during my university days. And about the funny name, it's an acronym for Survey, Question, Read, Recall, Review. SQ3R is different from the way you likely read today because it breaks the process of reading down into a handful of distinct steps. In doing so, it primes your brain for the knowledge it's about to receive in a few different and ingenious ways. During the survey step, we quickly skim or scan the content before we read it to prepare our minds for new information. If you're a trained SuperLearner, this is also where you'll begin creating visual mnemonics to be filled in with more detail later. Next is the question phase, which happens simultaneously alongside the survey phase. In this phase, we ask ourselves questions to improve our motivation, such as, for what reason am I reading this? What's in it for me? Or what do I expect to see here? Doing this helps create curiosity, which in turn generates motivation and enthusiasm for reading. Next, we read either by speed reading or in the normal fashion. When reading, you reap the benefit of the previous S and Q steps, so you do not reread or dwell on irrelevant details. With reading done, we recall. We attempt to remember what we've read, and along the way, we create and improve detailed visual mnemonics. This happens after reading each paragraph, page, or chapter, depending on the density of the material. This is our way to ensure that we actually recall the content we're reading. Finally, we review. We analyze the content from multiple perspectives. We assess what we've learned and try and connect it to previous knowledge. We perform spaced repetition on the material for an extended period of time. Believe it or not, the most effective readers spend more time on this step than all previous steps combined. That's because if you don't review the material, both immediately after and in increasing intervals, everything you've done so far is useless. You'll just forget it anyway. Number 7. How then do we speed read? Well, the basics of it are quite simple. I will explain them to you, you will read my explanation, and then you will begin to practice. But speed reading is a lot like learning to walk on your hands, which, after a year or 2 of practice, I learned to do quite comfortably. Knowing what to do and being able to do it effectively are 2 very different things, and it will always be much more comfortable and natural to walk on your feet when you get out of bed in the morning. Speed reading is very much the same. Without a doubt, the memory and pre-reading skills you've learned so far are a complete overhaul to the way you think and learn. But over the years, I've come to realize that speed reading is a specific tool useful for specific scenarios. Would I speed read a nice novel before bed? Probably not. Number 8. At any point in your life, did anyone, educator or otherwise, actually teach you how to learn, or, for that matter, how to best use the 10-pound mass of neurons and synapses you call your brain? Think back for a moment. You had years of physical education classes teaching you the importance of exercise. There were a few health and biology classes teaching you how your individual cells and organs work. I bet there were even some very uncomfortable sex ed classes that taught you how to safely use your other parts. But what about your brain? How is that fair? When you buy something as simple as a refrigerator, something that was designed by a team of engineers to be as easy to use as possible, it still comes with a 50-page user's manual. That manual gives you helpful information about every single feature, plus exact instructions to follow in case you experience difficulties. And yet, when it comes to the single most complex object in the known universe, your brain, you're lucky if you get even a hint as to how to actually use it. This is why many of us struggle through school and learning in general. We suffer excruciating boredom learning new material, waste endless time reviewing that material, and in the end, we forget it after the exam anyways. I mean, be honest, how much do you actually remember from high school trigonometry? Number 9. Let's imagine first that we were trying to memorize someone's name. After all, names and faces are one of the most common challenges that students come to us with, and for good reason. We all know the embarrassment of forgetting someone's name. Let's say that we meet someone named Mike. For the sake of visualization, let's say it's Mike Tyson, and that somehow you've never heard of him before. As soon as you go to shake Mike's painfully strong hand, I want you to take a split second and create a marker. In this marker, picture him holding a microphone, singing embarrassingly off-key karaoke on stage. Get it? Mike, now you try it. Seriously, stop and do it right now. Close your eyes if you must, but don't read on until you have a visualization so clear that you can see Mike belting out the missed notes. Face tattoo, lisp, and all. By the way, when I say clear, I must be clear myself. Visualization doesn't mean I am hallucinating the image before me, or that I see it instead of what my eyes are seeing. Things you see with your mind's eye are always going to be less vivid than the things you see with your own eyes. That's perfectly normal. If you can imagine a marker well enough to be able to describe or reproduce it, you're doing it right. Got it? Congratulations, you just made your first marker. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, you probably will not see us again. If you have, congratulations, you are growing every day.